Hello. Okay. Thank you so much for coming out tonight for another screening with the Black, Bold, and Brilliant team. This was a film that we selected to kick off Women's History Month. So thank you for joining us for Beba, and we will have Rebecca Huntt with us to do a Q&A. If you don't know what Black, Bold, and Brilliant is, we are a part of the Utah Film Center. And so we host community conversations about the Black community through the lens of film, media, pop culture, and I was going to say film again. I'm not going to say that again. So my name is Asia Washington. I'm one of the hosts of Black, Bold, and Brilliant, and this is Risshan Leak. And we are super excited to kick off this Q&A with you tonight. So we will be asking Rebecca some questions, and then we will also give you the opportunity to ask questions for her as well. All right. So once she gets online, we will get started with the Q&A.
I'm here.
All right. There she is. All right. So thank you for this film. This was an emotional roller coaster. Like for me specifically, being from the East Coast, being from New Jersey, spending a lot of time in New York, Brooklyn, and definitely Central Park. But this isn't about me, it's about you. So as an Afro-Latina woman venturing out in a predominantly white male-dominated space, how was the experience being both the subject and the creative driving force behind the film?
Messy. First of all, thank you guys for having me. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for what you've said to my film, and thank you everybody for coming out to watch my film. It was made with a lot of love, and I'm just giggling because it was messy. It was just a messy in terms of like internally messy. You know what I mean? Because I feel like externally, maybe most people wouldn't realize how messy it was for me. But it was messy. Yeah.
I guess I wonder what emotional toll did this process take on you? This seems, not just messy. This is like a lot to like sort through and to come to terms with.
It was actually, it's a lot of things at the same time, because it was also really healing and freeing. There was something really incredible about coming into this space, as you've correctly observed, and being like, this is exactly who I am, and this is where I come from. And it's so funny because now I'm like, all of my meetings and everything I do, it's just like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, there's not that level of like shame or there's a level of self-acceptance that I have. I mean, self-acceptance, it changes every moment of every day, but there's a floor. I don't know how to explain it. And for that floor, I am so grateful to my ancestors and to myself, honestly, for finishing this, and to the universe and God and, and my family and so many things. But it was not like, there's no easy answer to this. Like, there's no easy answer to how, what it was like to be the subject and the director writing the film, and also like going out and producing it, and then I would like finish double shifts at Cafe Habana and would take the train, take off like my like all my clothes that smelled like French fries and corn, and then, put on something in the middle of January and some nice, and like my one pair of nice boots to go and meet people and go to these like random industry parties where they would look at me like I was crazy, because they were like, because how do you explain this film and who was going to fund it? So it's like, so in that way, there's no straight answer. It was just like really messy, painful, healing, dark, light, and overall incredibly liberating and worth it.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. Yeah, please. I mean, now that you have the product is finished, you did the tour, you're showing the movie. Are like when you look back, are you surprised with how, you use the term messy a couple times and how raw and real it is? Like you didn't hide anything. This is unapologetically Beba. And so was that always the plan?
Yes. Yes. Definitely. That was always the plan. That's what made it worth it. That was always the plan.
Good.
So can you tell us a little bit about your process of I guess when you came up with the idea of this film and how you knew that this is what you wanted to make? Maybe when did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, my producer and I were friends in college, and we were having a really long sort of conversation after during Michael Brown era, the murder of Michael Brown era. And it was a really long, one of those really long conversations. And out of that, we were like, we have to make a film, and we have to make this film. And it had different iterations to it. While I was working on it, it was going to be different things, but it was it was always going to be this level of honesty and this level of because it was I don't know, I guess I just made this film to feel less lonely and contribute something real to the conversation. And I feel like there was different, it was, at one point it was going to be more about my relationship. At one point it was going to be more about my college and my relationship with my college friends. But then when you start stripping away and getting real about it, and you think about what is actually important and what really matters to us and to me, or what really has affected me the most in my life, it's my relationship with my family, my relationship to myself, and just the sort of overarching movement and relationship to society, I guess,
So yeah, I wanna touch on that because I think there's a point in the film there's a crossover. You're talking with your professor Annie, and she's talking about how you're with all these groups, the beautiful people, if you will, but you're alone. And then if you juxtapose to the conversation with, I don't know if they're your friends from college, but you don't talk about specifically Michael Brown, but it's definitely about the things going on in our community. And it feels like you're almost taken aback by their lack of understanding of what we as brown people go through in America.
Yeah, that was actually a reenactment, but it was just that was the reality of the time. Anyone, I think, who had, unless you had white acquaintances, which is very different from having white friends. If you had white friends, you had those conversations. And there were tons of articles written at that time about friendships breaking up and relationships breaking up and marriages breaking up, because it was one after another. And then Trump got elected, and we were going, our country, I mean, it's always still happening, and it's still happening right now. But for some reason, the ancestors and the universe and social media, and there was so many different, there was a decision that for some reason, certain people were going to have more space in their conscious for it at that very moment.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and those were the conversations we were having, and we were feeling it. And to be I feel like being in your 20s is so crazy. Especially that age between 18 and 20, really maybe 20, because at 18, you're still a teenager. I really feel 18 and 19, you're still actually a teenager. But from 20 to 27 or 20 to 28 is just a car wreck. I don't know. It's so So to have that happening too, I don't know, maybe I'm rambling, but I also feel like Black people go through like a specific coming of age that has to do with like it doesn't matter how, and I've spoken to my Black American friends about this, I've spoken to my African friends about this, I've spoken to my Afro-Latina friends about this, because like I had no preparation. Like there was no race talk in my family. My preparation was, or actually I did have preparation, but it wasn't passed down on me like a lot of my Black American friends. Like you know, I was just like a nerd who was obsessed with reading Maya Angelou and Huey Newton and Asada and, you know, Angela Davis when I was younger, because I was like trying to figure out like what it all was and, you know, where I was in this country and listening to hip hop. And there's so many, and there is a lot of tools, but I feel like there's another, like in that time also there's the coming of age of understanding like this is what it's going to be like to be a politicized body as an adult. And it's crazy. I don't know if anything I said just made sense, but
No,
Yes, it does.
it does, because it's almost like the way I describe it, and unfortunately one day I'm going to have it with my two boys, but it's almost like you just lose your innocence and you don't know when it's going to happen, but it's that first interaction and you realize like I am Black in a very white space and I no longer get the benefit of the doubt. Like I am not a kid any longer and I am going to be treated with like suspect, if you will.
yeah. And it happens in your 20s, because I'm sure maybe it did happen before, but we didn't have like the frontal lobe thing or whatever it is. There's something there's like a moment in time where you're like, oh shit. Like you look down and you're like, that is a hard fall. I have to, you know, like this is something to be navigated. And then with that comes an entirely, you know, what I would like to think is like an opportunity for a profound initiation in a way. But, you know, not everybody has that, I don't know, like, you know, maybe not everybody sees it that way, understandably. And it's hard. But
I'd like to
beautiful.
go, sorry. I'd like to go back to what you said about kind of having like a politicized body, because like back to like Annie, there's, you know, when she talks about kind of telling you that you can't wear your shirt that way, you have to stay in class, and like this is what you need to do to basically get through school and get through this program. I mean, that's very political. And like she said, that's a very violent notion that's been carried on for a long time. Like, how have you navigated that, like now being kind of a part of the industry? Because there is a lot of assimilation that's expected, a lot of conformity that's expected. Like, how are you navigating that?
Right. Oof, that's a good question. Well, ever since I've graduated, I've never taken off a crop top. I have on a crop top right now, and I wear crop tops even in the wintertime in New York. So maybe that answers your question. I think, but I have had moments where I've asked people like, where I'm being so honest. I just wish I wasn't so honest sometimes, but you know, I'm like, but I have had, but it's liberating for me and everybody around me. And I don't know, sometimes it gets me in trouble, whatever. I feel like there are moments where I've had like people I trust where I'm like, do you think do you like, you know, what's the attire here? Or, you know, just certain things that I think would make my life easier. And I don't know if I see it as assimilation as much as I see it as like, you know, if I know that I'm gonna go, you know, to a talk, like I'll bring a pen and a paper, you know, I don't know. So there's, and a lot of it also is instincts. I'm really good at observing. And even though I'm really good at talking, I'm also really good at listening and reading the room and figuring out and adapting myself in ways that still feel authentic to me, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes I'm, you know, I think it's like a good quality that I have, but I always have to watch out for it. Adaptability, because I also feel like it might be a little bit of a trauma response. you know, I'm drinking this, but it's water. It's not alcohol. I'm not just drinking like.
No judgment here. No judgment here. How did your family receive this movie? Because I know when the movie ends, it is, I mean, you know, it's a roller coaster, but then I'd say from zombie to like the phone calls coming from in the house, it's like one of the part of the roller coaster where there's no reprieve and we're just going down. How'd they receive it?
My parents were very proud of me and like they had their reservations about it, but in the end they like loved it and were so proud. And they went to Toronto where it premiered, and then they went to Tribeca, and it was so great for them. And then my siblings, they haven't really said anything to me about the film.
Okay.
But I still like talk to them. Like I'm still like, oh, like, hey, how's it going? Because our relationship is also very strained, I guess, is one of the word, but like very polite, and which is very healthy for me. And they've never mentioned it, so I've never mentioned it. It's like sometimes you give whatever energy you're getting. Like it's like if you're getting nothing, like okay, So, and my extended family, like all of my aunts and uncles and cousins, which is a huge family, loved it. So, yeah.
Good, as well they should.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to open it up to the audience if anybody has any questions.
Don't be scared. No. Okay, we do have a few people.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for making the film. It was incredible. Can you talk about the working relationship with your editor, with Isabella Freeman?
Isabel Freeman, yeah, she's a rock star. I feel like we just work together from 10 to 6 every day. And during the pandemic, it was on Zoom. Then summer of 2020, actually, speaking of summer of 2020, I went to upstate New York and we worked together in person. And it was very collaborative. She's amazing. She really understands me in a very, very specific and profound way. Like we speak similar languages, and she brought so much to the project. She was just incredible. And there was a lot of respect in that relationship and a lot of trust. Because if the ball would have been dropped on either one of us, like if either one of us would have dropped the ball, it would have been a tragedy. And I feel like that's something we always have to remember when we're collaborating with people. It's like sometimes that's just something, it's just important to remember that as collaborators. Like the end goal could be something so incredible. Just like try not to drop the ball so much with like ego or other things, even though we're going to drop the ball, but just sometimes, whatever, you get what I'm saying.
All right, we have another question.
I just want to give you credit, Beba, for being a bold traveler on a journey that's very complex. Your movie reminded me a lot of the TV show Finding Your Roots. And instead of Dr. Gates taking you on this journey, you kind of took yourself on it. And it's very mysterious. And I mean, all the guests he have, they're always blown away and they end up crying when they start to follow their roots. And you did that beautifully. I mean, I try to do that with my family. My wife's Afro-Latina from Costa Rica and Jamaica. And she's kind of perplexed with what all that means. And of course, with my son, who's only 22, he's trying to figure that out too. What's his roots? But the way you did it was like you were living that journey. You were going back and forth and finding all those parts about you. And do you ever feel like you have some kind of kinship with that kind of journey back into your past and to who you are because of all that?
Definitely. My ancestors are always with me, guiding me on levels. That's where my power comes from. That's where my intuit, that's like everything. It's everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question.
Thank you. Hi, that was it was phenomenal. I loved your film. I'm curious about the storytelling choice that you made with I guess the representation of your college experience, how it kind of like flowed into this like partying and like a lot of white friends type of situation. And you said someone warned you like the white people will never see you as a human. And then you sort of closed out the college chapter with like the group of, white men being idiots. And so I'm curious, like, is that kind of your takeaway from like your college experience and like being close with like a bunch of white people? Like, did it sort of wrap up like, oh, okay, they are just going to keep doing microaggressions and being really ignorant?
I don't think that the film is a takeaway film. I think it's just about moments in time, like quantum moments and existential questions. Because like, like my family is incredibly diverse. There's different races in my family, and also like my friends are incredibly diverse. But that was a very specific moment in time. And I needed, an artist should reflect the times in a way. But I think one of what I hope is taken away from this film is that there are no takeaways. Like, we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing, and we are these universes that absolutely transcend these ridiculous social constructs, which don't even really exist anyway.
True. So we kind of talked about sorry, I didn't see, we have another question.
Hi. I just wanted to say that I think your ability to be vulnerable and storytell is just so beautiful. And I wanted to ask you whether you in any way prepared to be that vulnerable and to be that visible, or if you were just like, fuck it, yeah, let's go.
Fuck it, yeah, let's go. Like, there's nothing to prepare us. I feel like there was nothing to prepare me. And also, like, I thought the film was just gonna be, I was like, yo, I definitely have a friend that will play this on a Monday night at the MoMA for my friends and family. Like, that was my high. For the 8 years, I would just literally imagine that, and me wearing like a red dress and thinking like, and then I'll have something to show. And, and I'll be able to make another film. Mm-hmm. I'll convince someone else I can make another film.
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah, it was kind of like, fuck it. Like, here we are. Not complaining.
I mean, what do you really have to lose by going for it? So,
yeah.
Yeah, we have another question from the audience. I'm not sure you're on the mic, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. It's a really good film with a lot of emotions. I was wondering with the Annie feel, what made you confirm to what she wanted for you to change everything and just go with it? Just listen to her and go with what she was saying, not to, to confirm in order to get your grades.
What made me go with her? She was a Harvard educated Black person, and I was like the only Black kid in my school, and I was not getting good grades. That's what made me go with her. But I wasn't the only Black kid in that far. That was like, But that's what made me go with her, was that I felt like she went to Harvard. She knows something. And like, I don't know anybody who's been in my situation. None of my family members have been in this particular situation. So I'm gonna pursue this person, and even though I think respectability politics are violent, as she even says, there is something interesting about knowing how they work and why they're put in place and how to navigate them.
Yeah.
Along
Thank
with
you.
violence. Yeah.
Thanks. And I just had one more question. What was your experience like on your study abroad trip in Ghana, seeing that you were going through all these emotions? What was that like for you?
Well, I was reading a lot about Kwame Nkrumah and studying Pan-Africanism. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to come here and it's just going to be like, I'm going to feel like I'm a part of something. But it didn't feel like that, actually. It was more complex. It was like I was an American. And that came with all sorts of conversations. And I was still a foreigner.
Mhm.
I was definitely a foreigner. But I also, I don't know, I feel like the section of my film kind of gives you like the most vulnerable and realist, emotional description of how it felt for me. It's like, at once I'm being called a foreigner, but then I like see my dad for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really go deeper than the film, sometimes with it.
What part of Ghana were you in? Because I spent 4 months in Ghana, and I had the same experience. And I was reminded that I was American real quick. When I introduced myself as African American, they reminded me that you are not African, you are Black American. And I was, it took a second, but I was very comfortable with that. And I realized, you know what, I am American. And so I'm interested to know where you were at.
I was in Accra, I was in Cape Coast. No, I was all over the place. I spent time in Kumasi too.
Okay.
I was researching Nwomkro, which is this music that's believed to be so powerful, makes women fertile. It was actually the music that plays in the Ghana part. But I was okay with it too. Or actually, I don't know if I was okay with it back then, because back then, I think when I was in college, when you're in college, you're just like this emotional ball, which that's like what the film is supposed to. You're just like, it's so raw, like you're just like such a raw little person. But not to, I think Gen Z is they're like the most brilliant people I know. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, I'm not saying it. I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I felt like when I was 21 when I went, I was very impressionable, and I had, my family was like, Afro-Latino wasn't a thing when I was growing up. It wasn't a term. It wasn't a thing. So I was never really fully integrated into any one group. And even in my household, like there wasn't that anchoring, right? So then I go to this college, and then I go to Ghana hoping that like something will be there for me. And at first, when I was getting the like, no, you're a Black American, I was like, I mean, okay. And then when I started to like realize what that meant and what they were trying to say, and in terms of like privilege and like positioning myself, like what my reality was in the world, it opened my eyes a lot about many different things, and also just made me realize like how powerful it is. Like we forget because it's just like Blackness is infinite. It's just so, there's so many different there's no, it's a concept that it's just indefinable because we are so vast. And that is dope. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. Okay, I'm a Black American, of course. Yeah, got it. When you think about it that way.
Yeah. I think we have one more question. It's probably be our last audience question.
Well, I must say, with all of the emotions and non-conforming and conforming and being free within yourself and still searching for that, whatever that is, that can make you whole, is an ongoing transition. I am 58 and I am still conforming. I am still rejecting. I am still laying in the arms of my ancestors for what I do know. And I am still accepting my ignorance as well as my being informed. I want to thank you very much for bringing this out again. Unfortunately, in our lives, we're still trying to conform with each other, but still are conforming to separatism. And I hope that we can take this film and understand how important it is for us to drop the mess, drop the vastness of separatism and things like that, because we are who we are, and we're the only who we are here on this earth. Why we can't get along, I don't know why. But I appreciate the fact that you are in tune with yourself. I love the way that you embrace the nature and how you take that. I appreciated the way that you put the mud on your body to connect with the earth. All of that is so very important. My daughter is the speaker here. I'm her mom, and I'm so very proud of her because I tell her as much as possible that this transition is an ongoing until you are no more. So please, I'm not trying to be a mother to you. You have your own mom, but I appreciate your, as my daughter put it, being so organic with yourself. Please continue. And when you do that film production or experience again, I hope you make your dress a midriff red dress. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, yes!
Right? Let's go. Miss
Thank
Washington
you
in
so
the house.
much. Yes, thank you. And honestly, respecting my elders is a very big part of who I am and my culture. And just like feeling that love is very specific. And I'm reading, I know I'm late with this, but I'm reading Women Who Run with Wolves, which a lot of people have been like, you should read it. And I'm like, which makes me be like, nah, I don't need to read that. But now I'm reading it. And there's this one part where she talks about how we just like constantly need to reinitiate. And reinitiating is essentially like reconnecting to our intuition, because we just live in a society, all of us, every single one of us, like none of the, like just on in terms of like every person alive, we live in a society that essentially, like, I don't know how it happened, but we're, we live in a society that encourages us to separate from that part of ourselves. And so there's like a constant reinitiation and a constant check-in and a constant sort of like coming back to that has to and should be happening. And she also says that it's lifelong. And I find that to be at once exhausting, and I'm not super excited, but also comforting, and I'm kind of down.
Well, better you up to what's next for you. How can people follow your work?
I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear us now?
It just sounds like kind of vibraty, but whatever. I definitely can't hear you guys now, but I feel like is it the end? Are we?
No, it shouldn't be.
Can you guys try a different microphone? Does the audience hear them or?
We can hear you. Oh, you can see like the subtitles.
Okay, it's just like echoey and strong vibrations, so I can't really understand what you're saying, but it's okay. It doesn't matter as long as, yeah, I don't know. I guess.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, it's just like echoey and weird. So maybe talk a little bit slower. It's like an echo, like you sound like a robot with a high vibration and an echo.
Okay. Maybe our connection is breaking up a little bit.
Oh, okay. It's okay. I can understand you though.
Okay. I just wanted to know what projects you're working on, what's next for you, where people can follow you online.
You can follow me on my Instagram account at Rebecca with 1 C and Hunt with 2 T's. And but I mean, I'm not that interesting, but you can follow me on there. Like, but this next film, I mean, I am interesting, but I just, whatever. The next film is gonna be very intense and better than Beba, and I don't know, I can't really say that much more about it, but I'm working on it. I'm giving it every single thing I have because you guys deserve that, and because like that's what I'm here to do. So, and I'm working hard on it.
Well, I just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you sharing space with us tonight.
Thank you for sharing your space with me, and thank you guys all again, every single one of you, for coming and for programming my film, and for everyone who asked a question. Just thank you. I really appreciate it. It's such an honor to be able to share with you these moments in time.
Thank you.
All right. Peace out. Thank you.
Thank you.